are the founder of a new Black-owned app called Upfront that
Yes,
will be
ma'am.
launching this summer. It hasn't launched yet, right?
That is correct. Yes, we are launching at the end of this summer.
And so it says here Upfront is revolutionizing the dating app game and bridging the gap in Black love.
That's right.
So what inspired you to create this platform and why
Yeah.
now?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'm a student of history, a historian by background, from undergrad education, and I've always recognized that community was our strongest point of power, which is why it was the first thing that they destroyed, right? So what were the broader implications of that? Well, when we don't have strong households, is namely household income, educational outcomes for children, health outcomes, and life expectancy. And Black folks are at the bottom of all four of those. But we're also the least married racial group in the country now, so it's correlative. So my thesis was if we can raise our marital rates, then we also have a shot at restoring community. And overwhelmingly, when I would ask Black professionals, would they want to see the resurgence of a Black Wall Street? The answer was overwhelmingly yes. Unfortunately, when I would ask the follow up, well, what do you think made Black Wall Street and the other nearly 1,200 self sufficient Black communities we had between 1866 and early 1900s? What was that key to success? And they would always go to the businesses. And I would say, well, the business was an outcome of having strong families that had communities that then needed goods and services, which they provided to each other. So for me, it was pretty simple. Get to the root of the problem that nobody else is addressing, and let's start rebuilding our households through marriage.
You've introduced AI guides named
Yeah,
Langston and Zora, rooted in culturally competent therapy frameworks.
that's
So
right.
how do they work and why was this important? Why was it important to take that approach?
Absolutely. So I truly believe that if you're not building a business in the year of our Lord 2025 with AI in mind, it's already a losing proposition, right? So as an avid tech user, I consider myself tech forward and have been for years. I noted that AI's ability to be trained and rooted in Black psychology and specific frameworks that were relevant and germane to us as Black professionals, while also taking in cultural nuance and our history, could be a great and powerful tool to help us get out of our own way when it comes to relationships, right? What we know is that the current apps aren't working. They're leaving us frustrated, unmatched, and certainly not giving us a great experience by virtue of them not being built for us. So I wanted us to have personas that were familiar, guides, as it were, through a healing journey, and then ultimately a thought partner and guide in the connection process, so that we can start to move past some of the narratives, some of the misconceptions, the stereotypes, and even some of the communication barriers and past trauma issues that are unresolved. And I thought AI was the best way to do that in today's landscape.
Black folks who turn to dating apps, we know that they face a lot of bias on traditional dating apps,
Right.
right? So how
That's
is
right.
Upfront actively addressing and disrupting some of those patterns in its design and, user experience?
Yeah. So we've been really thoughtful about creating a specific process. So, for instance, Upfront is a mandatory 30-day healing journey before you ever get introduced to connection. We want to make sure that the member is right with self before they try to, seek us a long-term, sustainable, and healthy relationship. That led us to working with the Black Girl Doctor Collective, founded by Dr. Taisha Caldwell Harvey out of the Bay Area. Shouts out to Dr. Ty. And we were really thoughtful about working through 8 different psychological frameworks rooted in Black psychology, and feeding our LLMs, training them to be aware of the prevailing thoughts and practices around healing. And so that's one aspect of us putting the user experience or the member experience first. First of all, knowing us, right? And then ultimately, when we get to the connection part of it, well, a lot of this is swipe based, right? When you look at these other apps, it's very visually driven. it's relying too heavily on chemistry and not compatibility. And so we wanted to bring a balance to that to create a better experience. So we don't have swiping. We've removed swiping for it, and that has enabled us to put technology at the forefront and blending your user interaction or your member interaction to get to know you better, understand your compatibility points, your values, your vision, your backgrounds, aspirations, and all those things, and then start to give you recommendations on a weekly basis, and then encourage you to work through like, hey, maybe I didn't like all three of the recommendations you had on the physical side, but let's challenge some of your requirements, some of your criteria, and really determine, is your preference really your preference, or is that how we're conditioned to think we should prefer and or choose. So we're taking some of the things that we know don't work or haven't worked very well for us in this space and putting an us-centric approach in place for us to have a better outcome.
So once Upfront launches, what's the dating range for users? I mean, is this an app
Yeah.
for 18 to 35, 40 and up? Like
Yeah.
who's the audience? Who's the target audience?
Yeah, our focus demographic is 25 to 55 plus. We recognize that, when we're talking to professionals, they want to meet people who are, aspirationally driven, ambitious, seeking stability, growth, and things of that nature. So, it's not for the babies. We'll work on that in terms of some of our community work and getting people more familiar with and comfortable with healthy relationship earlier on. But this is primarily for those who are actively in the game professionally. And we're not saying that you have to be in a corporate career to be deemed a professional, right? You can be an entrepreneur, you can be a plumber, but somebody who is actively building a sustainable and stable foundation and future for themselves. Yeah,
So overall, it sounds like Upfront isn't just about dating, right? It's about building a complete like ecosystem rooted in healing, mentorship, and connection.
that's
Is that
right.
safe to say?
That's absolutely on point. We were conscious of not just getting people matched and then sending them off, right? What we ultimately wanted to recreate was this notion of it takes a village. And we say that so cavalierly, right? So casually, but really it does. I've been married for 16 years this coming September. I know that my success in marriage is not based on mine and my wife's alone, right? There are people actively rooting for us and giving us counsel and guidance and support and all those things. And so once you've been matched, we'll also have what we call the wedding district, right? We've set these things up into districts. So you've got the healing district, then your connection district, where matching happens, then your wedding district. We'll bring in Black vendors who participate in the wedding economy, whether it's dressmakers and tailors, bakers, venues, event planners, you name it. Then we'll have the legacy district, in which case, once you're married and you're well into relationship, you also need to start thinking about wealth and financial planning, estate planning and life insurance, wealth management and financial literacy, all of those things. And then ultimately, we'll also have the mentorship district, in which case we have a community of married folks who've been married for 7 years or more, who are actively transferring that knowledge of healthy, sustainable relationship to aspiring spouses. So it's truly a community that we're building in replication of the successful, self-sufficient Black communities of the past, but rooted in technology in the future.
The goal of Upfront is to
Yeah,
facilitate 1 million Black marriages.
that's
And
right.
so obviously that is, it's very ambitious, obviously, and powerful, right? So
Yeah.
what metrics or milestones are you using to measure this progress? And, in your opinion, what will success look like for you in 1 year after this app has been, out available to the public?
Yeah, it's an amazing question. So, yes, 1 million Black marriages facilitated is a big, bold, audacious goal. What we're conscious of is that we don't control who says, "Will you marry me?" We don't control who says, "I will." Right? What we're rooted in is removing the barriers to getting people to that point, right? From both sides. So we're tracking this not only in outcomes, right? not just in did you find your forever person, but did you find measurable improvement in your relationship with self, with acknowledgement and active participation in the healing journey, right? So, are you completing it? Are you still continuing to use the tools thereafter? Because at the end of the day, even if you don't find your partner on Upfront, which we want to do everything we can to make that the case, but even if you don't, you will have at least started your healing journey or continued on it. And we've been a part of that process to leave you better than we found you. So, a million Black marriages, yes, that is the vision. But I think it's really about the journey more than the destination in that regard.
How do you
Okay.
envision Upfront changing the narrative of Black love? And what does it mean for the mental health and future of Black professionals?
Mm. So the narrative of Black love needs some help right now. To put it mildly, I think we first have to get back to trusting each other, right? And I think there's been a breach in that trust for many reasons, a lot of external factors over the course of 400 plus years. But what I'll say is the impact that we're seeking to make is getting us to trust ourselves and trust each other in this journey of love and relationship. And that comes, not only through our app, but also through the content that we're putting out to help reverse and positively reverse negative narratives about Black men and women in the eyes of Black men and women. Additionally, our partnerships and who we're collaborating with in support of these narratives of healing, a positive and healthy relationship. And then ultimately, we we envision a world where if Black professionals are in a position or in a situation to engage, network with each other, and there's some romantic interest, for them to ask the question, "Are you up front?" And if the answer is no, that they turn and walk away, right? Because that is the vetting standard that we want to create. That people have engaged in a healing process before they are open for a relationship.
I love it. This sounds very exciting. So
Thank
we
you.
don't have a month yet. We don't know. So for folks who watch this interview
Yeah,
and they're like, you know what? I want to know when Upfront
I'm
launches. I
in.
don't want to miss a beat. Where do they
Yes.
need to go to stay up to date to stay informed with updates?
Absolutely. So we are currently still taking on early access waitlist signups. So if you come to upfront.love, then you can not only sign up, but you can actually have a experience with Langston or Zora, your AI guides, and have a conversation with them and get a sense of what the experience is going to be like. But yes, we will gladly welcome you in to the waitlist experience, and you will have early access before we launch at the end of summer.
This is so exciting. I
Thank
feel
you.
like this is much needed. We've been needing something like this because I don't know. Are there many Black dating apps out there? There aren't.
There's a handful. The
Yeah, but
challenge
you don't really
is,
hear much about them. They're not
well,
making any waves.
there's that, and we didn't create them
Right,
in a couple of instances, and who owns them,
right, exactly,
right? And
exactly.
so the experience has historically been get mass adoption, bunch of people, upsell, 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 but we weren't factored into the algorithms when it comes to matching. We hear all too often from some very, influential people who are on these apps. I say influential, meaning highly paid, multi degrees, high credentials, seeking love, and they keep getting served non-black people. And they want to remain, they want their husband or their wife to be somebody Black, and it's just not serving it to them. So point being, there's opportunity for us to be considered from the ground up.